You finally get an evening to yourself. You make something to eat, get comfortable, open Netflix, and begin looking for something to watch. There are award-winning dramas, classic films, new releases, documentaries, and several television series that your friends insist will completely change your life. 20 minutes later, your food is getting cold and you're watching previews of programs you have absolutely no intention of starting. Eventually, you give up and watch something you've already seen. This is slightly absurd. Human beings have gained access to more entertainment than any previous generation could have imagined, and somehow turned watching television into administrative work. But it isn't only Netflix. A restaurant menu can have so many pages that ordering dinner begins to feel like revising for an exam. Shopping for a phone requires 3 evenings of research, 12 comparison videos, and a detailed understanding of processors you will never use properly. Even buying toothpaste can involve standing in a supermarket wondering whether your teeth require whitening, repairing, protecting, rebuilding, or some kind of complete spiritual renewal. Modern life offers us more choice than ever before. So why does all that freedom sometimes make us feel completely stuck? Choice is usually a good thing. That needs to be said before we start blaming psychological distress on the existence of multiple sandwich fillings. Being able to choose where we live, what work we do, and who we share our lives with represents real freedom. Having no choice is not peaceful simplicity, it is often powerlessness. But choice has a strange relationship with happiness. A small number of options can give us control. As the number grows, however, choosing can become harder. Under the right conditions, more freedom begins to feel like more work. Psychologists call this choice overload. One of the most famous experiments took place in a supermarket, where shoppers encountered a display of jam. On one occasion, the display contained 24 different varieties. On another, it contained only 6. The larger display attracted more attention. People were naturally drawn towards the impressive wall of jam, but those who saw the smaller selection were far more likely to actually buy something. The large selection was more interesting, but the smaller one was easier to act upon. Now, this doesn't mean that adding a 7th jar of jam causes the human mind to collapse. Later research has found that choice overload is not a universal rule. Sometimes people genuinely appreciate having more options. The problem is most likely to appear when the choice is complicated. The differences are difficult to compare, we don't already know what we want, or we're frightened of making a mistake. Which explains why choosing between tea and coffee is usually fine, while selecting a new broadband package can make you want to abandon civilization. Every option requires some degree of evaluation. Is this one better? Is it worth the money? What do the reviews say? Does it contain a feature I need? Will I discover a much better one tomorrow? With 4 options, this may be manageable. With 400, the number of possible comparisons becomes enormous. And the modern world is extremely good at showing us alternatives. Netflix doesn't simply ask whether you would enjoy a particular film. It quietly encourages you to wonder whether you would enjoy it more than every other film on the platform. So you continue scrolling. Each new option carries the possibility of being better than the last one. And because searching costs almost nothing, there is no obvious moment when you should stop. You may not be searching for something good to watch anymore. You are searching for the best possible thing to watch. And that is a very different task. Psychologists sometimes distinguish between maximisers and satisficers. A satisficer decides what they need, finds something that meets those requirements, and chooses it. A maximizer feels compelled to examine the alternatives and locate the best possible option. Satisficing can sound like settling for less, but it is not necessarily careless. If you need a reliable kettle at a reasonable price, choosing the first reliable, reasonably priced kettle you find is perfectly rational. You are going to boil water in it. You are not appointing it to the Supreme Court. A maximizer may conduct more research and occasionally make an objectively better choice. But research has also linked maximizing with greater regret and less satisfaction. Because finding the best option requires knowing what all the options are, and in modern life, you almost never do. There might always be a better product, a better deal, or a better opportunity hidden on the next page. And choosing something does not make the alternatives disappear. They remain in your mind as all the things you could have selected instead. This is the opportunity cost of a decision. When you choose one thing, you surrender the others. If you select one meal from a menu, you cannot also experience the meals you rejected. If your dinner is disappointing, the abandoned options suddenly become imaginary masterpieces. You don't picture the alternative burger arriving cold and falling apart in your hands. You picture the greatest burger ever constructed. The choices we didn't make have an unfair advantage. They never have to survive contact with reality. Having more options can also increase our expectations. If only one cafe is open and it serves you an average sandwich, you blame the cafe. If 80 restaurants were available and you carefully selected one of them, you may blame yourself. With so much choice, surely the perfect option must have been there somewhere. If you didn't find it, perhaps you chose badly. More freedom can therefore create more personal responsibility. Success belongs to us, but failure can feel as though it does too. This becomes much more significant when we move beyond streaming services, jam, and emotionally demanding kettles. Modern life asks us to make choices about our careers, relationships, homes, identities, and futures. What should I do with my life? Where should I live? Should I stay in this relationship? Would I be happier doing something completely different? These decisions are difficult because we cannot test every possible future before selecting one. We cannot live in 10 different cities, follow 6 careers, and marry 4 different people, then compare the results at the end of a free trial. We have to choose while knowing that our information is incomplete. And the internet ensures that the alternatives never entirely disappear. Whatever career you choose, you can find someone thriving in another one. Whatever town you live in, you can watch videos made by someone who escaped to somewhere beautiful. Whatever your life looks like, another possible version of you seems to be living differently and possibly better. The danger is that we become so aware of all the lives available to us that we struggle to inhabit the one we actually chose. Every meaningful decision closes certain doors. That can feel frightening, but it is not evidence that the decision was wrong. It is simply what a decision is. A life in which every possibility remains open forever is also a life in which very little is ever fully begun. So how do we prevent choice from becoming overwhelming? First, decide what matters before looking at the options. If you begin searching without knowing what you need, every new possibility can change the question. Establishing a few important criteria turns an endless search into a smaller, more manageable one. Second, deliberately limit the shortlist. The fact that 900 products are available does not mean you must personally investigate all of them. You are allowed to compare 5 and ignore the remaining 895. They will recover. Third, distinguish between reversible and irreversible decisions. Many everyday choices can be changed later. They do not deserve a level of analysis normally reserved for nuclear diplomacy. Fourth, accept good enough when perfection cannot be identified. Good enough does not mean bad. It means the option meets your needs, and further searching is unlikely to improve your life enough to justify the time and attention it consumes. And finally, once you have made a reasonable choice, stop shopping for alternatives. A decision can never feel settled while you continue treating it like an ongoing audition. None of this means that we should reject freedom or allow somebody else to make all our decisions. Choice gives us control over our lives. But freedom is not measured only by how many doors remain open. Sometimes, freedom means choosing one, walking through it, and accepting that you cannot know exactly what was behind all the others. Perhaps the secret to a happier life is not finding the perfect option. Perhaps it is making a thoughtful choice, giving it a genuine chance, and resisting the urge to spend the rest of the evening scrolling. Because eventually, you do have to close the menu and watch the film.